My name is Heidi Schrader. I'm going to be your host today, and we're really excited to have Chance here today. Chance Dorsey is with Sales Solve Everything, and he is going to present Beyond the Basics, winning strategies that top new home sales pros use daily. We could all use that. Hi, Chance. How are you? Ready?
How are you doing today? It's great to be here, and as always, great to see you.
I'm so glad.
Last time that I saw you, we were at the Builder Show in Vegas, right?
We were.
Yes, that's
We
right.
were. Yes, I remember talking to you
Hanging
a couple
around.
different times.
Yeah, hanging around Sales Central. That's where we all hang out at the time. So, it's a lot of fun. I always love going there. But how are things? You're in Washington State, right?
I am in Washington, yes. And, I know that the rest of the country is really jealous here that it's about 65 degrees.
Listen, I don't want
It's
to hear
about
it.
65 degrees, but yeah.
Yeah,
Where are you, Chance?
I am down on the Gulf Coast, on the total opposite. Like I live in a little town called Fairhope, Alabama, which is on the eastern shore of Mobile Bay. So it's not cool, Heidi. It's not at all. It's hot. It's humid.
You're sweating.
I'm sitting in the air conditioner right now because this is the only place that I want to be right now. So yeah, we do everything we can to stay cool. But a couple weeks ago, my wife and I went to Maine, and so we got some of that that temperature that you're talking about. So it was really cool to be there.
I've always wanted to go. That would be a super place to go. We'll have to catch up and see, how that was.
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. So how's the housing market there where you are, Heidi?
Man, I'm hearing lots of things across the country from my customers that everybody's feeling the heat a little bit more than they were this time last year, I think. Here in Washington, yeah, a little bit of that, but what I hear from our Lasso clients is everybody's feeling the heat cranked up just a little bit, figuratively and literally, right?
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely in the dog days of summer, right? I mean, and as far as the buyer cycle right now, it does drop off a little bit in the summertime, but then we've got these challenges that we have in our industry right now with rates that are kind of keeping things at bay. People aren't wanting to move around. I think there's still a lot of pent-up demand, and I really think we're getting closer as far as inflation goes, where they need to be to be able to kind of get rates hopefully a little bit further down. But it's still tough. And I coach and I train, and I'm an interim sales manager for different builders, and it's I'm hearing the same thing right now. It seems to be tough, and so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. I mean, I know that's on everybody's radar, is what are some of the things that we can do as sales folks that in the model home that can really bring some success in times like this. And I know, and look, I know, and you may not want to hear this, and a lot of folks out there may not want to hear it, but I've always said for years that really, really great markets that we've been through sometimes create salespeople that we kind of forget. And I'm talking about myself too. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I was selling homes too, but we go through these really tough markets, and all of a sudden it gets better and better, and we start forgetting all the things that we have to do to be successful. And then when the tough market comes, it's like, whoa, hey, what was I doing? And why am I not seeing? I mean, I remember I started in this business, it wasn't last century, okay? So not that long ago, although I have plenty of friends that started this business in the 1900s, but I started in this business somewhere around 02. And at that time, we were coming out of the dot-com bust. A little bit tough, but then we started ramping up and things were going good. Then what happened? 2008 hit, and then it was like, whoa, what's going on? I really, at one point, in like the spring of 2009, I thought I will never sell a house again. I don't know what's going on. I don't know. But really, I mean, what we do in great markets, it doesn't translate to what we should be doing in really tough markets. So, and really, anytime the market changed, I remember the stark realization that if I wanted to succeed in a tough market, there were activities that I needed to do to win. So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And some of them, hey, they're tried and true. They're things that you've heard of before. I know that, and I might put a little twist on some of those things. But let's get into that. I'm going to share my screen real quick. See if I remember. You just taught me how to do this, but I think I'm gonna. Did I do it?
Oh, you got it. You
Yeah, I
got
got
it.
it. All right, sweet. See,
You got
I learned something new every day.
it.
So, okay, so here we are. All right. So the very first thing that new home sales folks that win in really tough markets, the very first thing that they do is they create sales opportunities. They create their own opportunities. Okay. And look, Heidi, when I was years ago, you want to know what my very first sales job was, Heidi? Do you have any idea? Could you even guess?
I want to know. I
My
I don't know that I can guess that.
You don't think? Okay, all right, here it is. All right, my first sales job ever was selling books door to door in Indianapolis, Indiana. It was a summer internship, and that was what I did. I mean, I did it for one summer, and here's what I realized. And I knocked on doors. It was very structured. That's what I liked about it. I knocked on doors from 7:59 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, every single day in the summer. Big line, it was hot. I'm carrying this big book bag around. But here's what I learned that summer, and that is the more times that I was able to do my presentation for someone, sit down in their home and do the presentation for what I was selling, guess what? I had more sales. So it's the very same thing in our industry. We've got to do what we do as often as we can. Okay, we've got to create sales opportunities. Okay, so there's a few ways that we can do that. And number one is, and don't roll your eyes, but you ready? Okay, there it is.
Oh, it's everyone's favorite word, right?
Everyone's favorite word. And the first thing that they think of is, oh man, you're gonna tell me to smile and dial and send emails and all those things. Yeah, I mean, there's no way around it. Most of the time, that is probably one of the most challenging things as salespeople that we do. But we've got to do it. And here's what I want us to do. First of all, I want you to book an appointment with yourself every day, okay? And here's what it looks like. I want you to schedule an appointment with yourself every single day. In fact, more than any other appointment that you schedule, the appointment with yourself to prospect is what you've got to do. And look, it can be at different times, okay? It could be like, I used to do it this way. I would go into the model one day a little early. I'd go in at 9 and I'd prospect for an hour. The next day, maybe I prospect from 2 to 3. The next day, maybe I would prospect from 6 to 7. I'd be calling and I'd send out emails and text and things like that. The reason I did that is because if I didn't catch them in the morning, maybe I'd catch them later in the evening when they got home or something like that. So number one thing, I want you to schedule that appointment. You've got to do it. And that's going to create more opportunity for you. The other thing I want you to do is I want you to dig deep into your prospects. I will never forget, Heidi, one time I got moved from one model home to another model home. And I remember I was putting all my stuff in the desk of this new model home, and I opened up one of the drawers and there was a stack. This is going to show you how long of it. There was a stack of up cards or registration cards sitting there. And I thought, wow, this is pretty cool. I mean, I wonder if there's anything in here. So I took those registration, I put them on the desk, and over the next week or two, I just started calling them. And guess what? I was able to get a couple, 2 or 3 deals out of that stack. And why is that? Because over time, people's situations change. Maybe their credit was bad and they needed some time to repair that. Maybe that home that they didn't think they were as tired of as they really are. Maybe they finally have gotten to their wits end and they're ready to do something. So people's situations change. And then when you call, I want you to be relevant and engaging. I mean, call with something of value. I know we have the tendency a lot of times when we call to go, hey, just checking in, wanted to see if you were still in the market, those kind of things. But if we call with different things, for example, you know, maybe when you met them, and this is why I take great notes, by the way, in my CRM or when I do it on my registration card, but there's always some story that was on that card that I really wanted to engage back with them. Hey, how are the kids doing? I know y'all were checking this out. How'd the soccer season go after y'all finished it up? And then I also, as a sales manager, I always try to provide a relevant reason for them to call. I may say, hey, look, this weekend, I want y'all to do some follow-up, and we're going to have this incentive that we're going to offer. So I always try to have a reason or give my salespeople a reason to call. And then remember, every time you call, this is the most important the most important thing about calling and smiling and dialing, and that is, what's the goal of that call? The goal is always to do what? To get an appointment. Okay. And what is it? What do we have to have an appointment? I mean, it's, first of all, obviously it's a date, right? We've got to have the date. We've got to have a time, but we also need one more thing. And I think we forget this a lot. I think we have to have a purpose for the phone call. I mean, for that appointment. So we say, you know, it may say, hey, look, I'll see you Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. And, you know, and what my goal for our visit is going to be to, I know that you had two plans that you're really interested in. We're going to narrow that down. We're going to look at the pros and cons of each one and kind of figure out which is the direction that we need to go. Okay. All right.
Awesome.
So that's smiling and dialing, right? There's no easy way to do it. There's no easy button for doing that part of the job, but it's got to be done. But you know what? One thing I found out when I was in a tough market was you can prospect in other ways. And let me talk about some of those. Like, one way is our friends, you know, I call them, here's what I call them. They're realtors, but I call them this. I call them my street team. Why do I call them my street team? And that's because I don't want to be the only person out there selling homes. I want 30 or 40 people out there selling homes for me. So I had a core group of realtors that were the ones that I always talked with. I would go visit with them a lot. I would visit with them regularly. I'd go to their office. I might provide breakfast for their whole entire, for you know, a few of their folks in their office. I might drop off some flyers. I mean, I know this is old school, but it still works, and it's still important because we have to, and sometimes we do it and we don't do it long enough, so it's not consistent. So we just kind of forget about it. But I would provide lunch for them, whether in my office or in my model home. I may have a CE class in my model home. I may host that. But I really think that you've got to be consistent with this, and because the goal is to be in the forefront of their mind. I would also have like realtor events. I might have a Margarita Monday or a Thirsty Thursday at my model home. And the goal again was to be in the forefront of their mind. And here's the best part. It doesn't have to be expensive. In fact, I didn't really want it to be expensive because I knew that if it was expensive, I wouldn't get to do it very often. And I wanted to do it as often as possible because that always made them think about me. In fact, I'll tell you one of the realtor events that I did consistently that was very inexpensive that I got several deals off of, but right across the street from the model home that I had, there was like a business park, and there was a title company in the business park, and I got to know some folks in there. And I was talking to one of the ladies one day, and she said, you know, we have a property tour every 2 weeks, and we really need somebody to provide breakfast for that. And I was like, oh, I'll do it anytime you want me to. So I literally, on the days that I would go and I went to Einstein's Bagels. I picked up a box of bagels.
And coffee, right?
Yeah, I picked up a box of coffee, and then of course I'd run by the grocery store, and I'd pick up a bottle of wine, and I'd go and I'd put the bagels and coffee out, and then I would give my presentation. And it was 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I'd leave some information about the community, the homes that we had on the ground that were available, the incentives that we were given to realtors. And then I'd gather up all their business cards, I'd put in a little bowl, and I'd do a drawing for the bottle of wine, right? Super simple. I think I had 25 bucks into every single one of those. And so twice a month, $50, there's $50. And every time I went on there were 25 realtors in the room. And these were realtors that had listings because it was a property tour. So it's the
Yeah.
movers and shakers out there. So I got to, for $50, I was able to do a presentation for 50 realtors every month. And when I took those business cards, I'd go back to my model home and I'd call every single one of them. I'd say, hey, I just want to let you know, I appreciate you letting me come today and talk about what I have over here at the community that I was selling in. Look, can I get your commitment on this one thing? And they're like, what is that? If you've got somebody in your car that fits my community, will you just bring them by? And they're like, absolutely will, for sure. And so I did that consistently, didn't cost a lot of money. Guess what? I got great deals out of that. So we cannot forget about having that core realtor group and always working with them and adding new ones and meeting new ones. And I mean, every once in a while I'd call them and be like, hey, where you been? I hadn't seen you in a long time. Okay, so realtors. The next thing I wanted to talk about were referrals. And here is where I was blessed with an amazing superintendent that worked in my community. And look, if you're out there, you got these guys that are superintendents, our project managers, these construction guys that work for us and help us make our lives easy. I want you guys to make sure that you take them out to lunch this week or send them a thank you note, call them today, text them and just say, look, I really appreciate what you do for me, because I had a great superintendent and he always made
Hard
care,
job. Yeah.
always took care of my customers. And because of that, I had happy customers, which is it was a win-win, right? It's amazing. So now I used to work with a guy here at Sell Stop Everything. His name's Steve Bradford, and Steve would talk about setting the table for referrals. And I was like, man, what does that mean? That's really interesting. But here's what happens a lot of time with referrals. We go through 5-6 months, depending on the build time or what type of home, whether it's a home that's on the ground, or we go through this whole process with someone. And many times on that day when they've moved in, they've gotten their key, they come visit you, tell you how much they love the home. That's the one time we go, hey, if you know anybody else that like you'd like to pick your neighbors, if you know somebody wants to live here, will you tell them about me? But so we wait kind of till the end a lot of times, and I'm guilty of it myself. But what I think is a great way to do is set the table for referrals, and that is basically from day one, when somebody walks in, ask them the question. So I'm just curious, did a friend or a family member send you in to check on our own? Did somebody send you? Did somebody refer you to us? If they say yes, say, well, that's awesome. I mean, it doesn't surprise me because we've got a lot of folks that live in our community that were sent by a friend or a family member. And if they say no, say, well, that surprises me because we've got a lot of folks in our community that were sent by a friend or a family member. So what I'm trying to do is I'm having the conversation about referrals from day one. So and then when we're doing our presentation, we might say the same thing. We say, maybe I'm talking about something in the home and I say, well, this is one of the reasons that so many folks send their friends and family to us, because we do X or whatever. So what we're doing, we're having that referral conversation early, and we're having the referral conversation often. And so people remember that and they start to think, well, man, this must be a referral worthy company. So if we're going to be referral worthy, we've got to do a couple things. I mean, we've got to be sales pros that deserve referrals, and we've got to be a company that gives a great customer experience. So there's some things, and I know that as salespeople, sometimes that's hard to control. But we always talk about having our power hour at 1 o'clock on Fridays. The power hour was a meeting with me and my superintendent where we called everybody in backlog and just said, hey, this is what's going on with your home last week, and this is what's coming this week. Do you have any concerns or anything? We kept in touch with them. But you've got to be able to, if you want to be referral worthy, you got to do things to be referral worthy. The other thing that I did to get referrals was I hosted homeowner events, just like I did realtors. I did a lot of things with homeowners, and I'm telling you, every holiday, if it was Easter, I was having an Easter egg hunt. If it was the 4th of July, I had a hot dog stand sitting out in front of the model. If it was Halloween, we had candy. If it was Christmas, I mean, one Christmas, I know some other friends that at their model home, they had not only Santa, but they had the Grinch. at their Christmas party. You know, so you could get your picture with both, or either you could get a picture of them arm wrestling. You know, and again, with homeowners, I might have, you know, a Margarita Monday or a Thirsty Thursday or something like that. In fact, I had you know, the craziest homeowner event that I ever had was
Uh,
I was selling in this community in North Austin, and I had my family, we had just gotten a new little Labradoodle puppy, and I sold a home to a young lady who was a dog trainer. And one day she was at the mall and she just said, we were talking about what she did. And she said, yeah, I kind of do demonstrations and things like that. And I said, well, I just got this new Labradoodle puppy. You think you could do a demonstration in front of people? And they're like, and she's like, of course. So what did I do? I had a homeowner event. I invited all the homeowners in the community that were dog lovers, and they were just like, everybody was excited about this. And I could not believe our Labradoodle was insane. And she had that dog doing some pretty amazing stuff. But here's what happened. People go to work and then they start talking, you know, we live in a great community.
yeah.
And you know what's going on in our community? We actually had dog training seminar last night at the model home. There's always something going on at that model home. And that's the goal, really, is feet in the model home. I mean, look, we're out sometimes trying to catch the big fish. But I say, look, we got to throw as many hooks in the water as we can. And one of those hooks is just people coming into the model home, giving us the opportunity that I said earlier, and that is to tell our story, to talk about what we do, to get people excited. Here's the other thing I did. When I had these events, do you think it was just for homeowners? Heck, no way. Remember, I had happy homeowners. So if I had folks that were referrals, that were prospects that still hadn't made a decision yet, I invited them. And what was great is when prospects showed up and met my homeowners, it was like I didn't have to
That's
sell.
it.
It was like
Yeah.
magic happened. And guess what? 2 or 3 days later, the Smiths would come in because they met the Jones, and now they're really good friends and they want to live in the community. It was like the one thing that kind of pushed them over the hump to make a decision was hanging out with somebody that actually lived in the community and got to experience the home builder and what they went through, you know. So the other thing is, when I started having these events, I got really busy, Heidi. I mean, I was like, whoa, I got to sell homes. I don't have time to be calling and getting drinks. And this is what happened. I finally had 4 or 5 folks in our community that were like, hey, we really like doing this. Is there anything we can do to help you? And I'm just like, shoot, yeah, you could go get some drinks. You could go get the margarita machine. You could go get this and this. And before long, they were doing it for me. And I was just bringing my prospects, and we had a great time. It was a lot of fun. But the biggest thing was, you know, and I always go on the WISH plan, WISH, will it sell homes? And guess what? It did. It sold homes to do that. So
People want to be a part of something like that,
yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And like I said, it gets them going to work and they're talking about this stuff. They're like, hey, you wouldn't believe what's going on in our community, you know? So, all right. So far, what have we talked about? We've talked about smiling and dialing. That's a way of prospecting. We've talked about realtors. That's a way of prospecting. We've talked about our referrals, and we talked about our entire, you know, our homeowners, the people that are happy homeowners in our community. The other place I want to prospect is in the community itself, you know, in the community, the area that my community is in. And here's where I start with that. So I like this one, okay? And this depends on price range. I mean, if you're selling a, you know, 7-figure home, then you may not be going down there to the apartment complex, but you know, if you're in a first time buyer type community or something like that, then this is a great place. And you know, I used to do door hangers, I'd do flyers, I would do all kinds of things that offered something for renters. And you know, I talked about realtors a while ago. I always had a realtor that I could rely on to go maybe to negotiate a lease or something like that. Kind of my go-to, just like I have kind of my main realtor that could do a move-up program for me, you know, if somebody had a home to sell. So that was always a good one.
I haven't heard this one in the past. I love this.
Okay, so then Where else did I go? We went to first responders. I mean, so many builders now, and we were one of them. We had what we call a hometown heroes program. And it's like, it was basically an incentive. If you're a police officer, or if you're a firefighter, or if you're any of those first responders, we would give them maybe $2,000 or $3,000 to maybe use for closing costs, or they could use that to go towards rate, or anything, any way they wanted to use it. But what it gave me the ability to do was go to a police station first thing in the morning and just give a quick presentation, or leave some flyers or some information about our Hometown Heroes program. It gave me the ability to go to a fire station to be able to do that and to have those conversations as well. And while we're talking about heroes, here's some other heroes right here. Okay, teachers. I've done presentations for teachers in teachers lounges. I've left flyers there and information for teachers. They're heroes. And so a lot of times we would give them the exact same incentive that we did. We would do the hometown heroes for the teachers as well. And so again, it's just another hook in the water. And you know, I think it was funny though, because sometimes I would talk to a teacher and they'd be like, well, I don't want to live in the neighborhood where all my kids are. But you know, maybe they would come from across town in a different school district and move into my community, you know. But but yeah, that was another way that I could say, hey, this is something that we do for teachers. And as far as police go, I mean, I always loved it to have that police car kind of sitting in the community. You know, I mean, it makes people feel a little safer when that presence is there. The other thing I did that I would go to is I would go to local businesses and I would talk to the local businesses and say, and because a lot of them have, you know, big HR departments and they're moving people into the area. And if you are one they've been talking to and you're front of mind for them, a lot of times they'll be like, hey, you came by the other day and left some information about your community. Well, we're actually getting ready to transfer several employees that are in other parts of the country to this area. So when you have that relationship, it leaves that line of communication open so that you're able to find another place for someone, you know, that is looking for a home. Okay. So that was always one that I would do. And then one of my favorites was a charitable organizations. I think that we have to get involved in what's going on in our community, and what better way to do it? I used to set up my model home as a drop zone for Toys for Tots. You know, I would say, hey, and I would advertise it. You could do it over socials. You could do it however you want to advertise. You could say, you know, stop at my model home and drop off a toy. I used to do it for school supplies. You know, I used to do it for maybe when it got cold and we needed coats, we needed to collect coats. I used to do it at the model home so that people would drop by. Again, look, what's the goal? Feet in the model home, right? People walking in to the model home, because you never know when somebody's going to drop a coat off and go, hey, have you seen our model home before? And they walk through and they're like, wow, this is really cool. They may not be in the market, but they may know somebody in the market. They may say, hey, I was over at dropping off some coats for a coat drive and I saw this model, you should go check it out. It's just look, activity breeds activity. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's
trust, right? Trust
Exactly.
breeds trust, right?
Yeah, for sure. So we have to do all these things to just create that activity. All right, so here's where we've been. We're creating opportunity. I'm looking at time to make sure we're good. Okay, so we want to create opportunity by smiling and dialing. That's what I always call it. It's always fun, you know. And by the way, you know, we used to have like phone-a-thons and things. Like we got to get back to that. I used to have my own personal phone-a-thon like once a day when I would do it. But I think sometimes it's fun to just get the team together in the office, buy some pizza, and hey, we're smiling and dialing. We're gonna have a phone-a-thon and have some fun with it, and just make it a good event, and really try to get some get some appointments set up. And with our realtors, we got to stay in touch with them. Referrals, make sure we're referral worthy, and then on the community, we've got to cast our net wide. Okay, so that to me, that is prospecting. Those are some things and look, if you've got some ideas, you know, send it to us in the little chat link that you have there.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm always
chat or the questions. I'm keeping an eye on those. It looks like Magda had a couple of comments. She said a long time ago she learned CITO,
See,
come into the
oh,
office.
what is it again?
CITO, come into the office. I
Yes.
love that. Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that.
that's
CITO. And then she had a great point too. She said that builders are cutting out sponsoring realtor events, and we're seeing that too. So I think that that is an opportunity because some of the larger builders are kind of cutting out that portion. They're not encouraging those connections with you know, community connections with your realtors. So I do think that that's a tremendous opportunity for sure.
Yeah, oh, for sure. And I, you know, and when I grew up in this business, we always, I looked at the realtors as partners, you know,
Yeah.
and our business is a relationship business, and you've got to have partners helping you. If you don't have the real estate community out there, like you said, you're out there by yourself. It's just you, where you could have a whole core group of 30 or 40 realtors, you know. So,
Yeah. Hey, we have one more question. How
okay, yeah,
long,
I don't want to
how
stun
long
them.
does it take for all this stuff to work? When it doesn't work, I get quickly frustrated. So that's
Yeah.
a great question. Like, what can we expect from this as far as how long is this going to take?
How long is it going to take? Well, I mean, it just depends. I've sometimes immediately you might get a sell right off the bat or from something,
From
but
prospecting, right?
and that's why I say, and I get it. I get that frustration because there's been times in my career when the market was tough, it's like, man, you know, I feel like I'm beating my head against the wall to get anybody out there. But to me, that's mindset. That's the filter that we kind of create that goes, okay, I'm getting tired of this. I'm getting tired of this. And that's also why I spend more time being creative on these events than the
Yeah.
money, because if it's going to cost a ton of money, then we're going to get shut down pretty quick. But if you get really creative and you don't, and it's kind of like the deal I told you about a while ago, where it was like, hey, for 50 bucks, I'm in front of 50 realtors. So there's some creativity, there's some things there that we have to, but how long? It just depends. But that's why I say stay consistent, stay consistent.
Build that strong foundation. Um, you know, that strong foundation. I've been seeing with phone prospecting with the clients that I'm working with
Mhm.
that so few salespeople are picking up that phone, that with phone prospecting, I'm seeing a lot of really great conversations and sales in the CRM just because they're picking up the phone. So
Right.
I'm seeing really quick turnaround for some of those with the clients I'm working with lately because
Yeah.
nobody else is doing it.
Yeah, I mean, look,
Crazy,
and we
right?
give up within, I think it's 50% give up within 2 calls.
Yeah,
So, or 2 touches, I should say.
right?
So I'm saying that's got to be consistent. That's the base of all of this. You know, if you're doing a minimum, it's that's where you got to call and text and stay in touch. These other things are great other hooks in the waters for sure that worked for me.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to change gears a little bit, Heidi. Are you ready for this?
Alrighty.
All right, so I'm going from prospecting to something else that really worked for me in a tough market, and that's this right here. Okay, and
Oh,
collectively, right now, I sense the eye roll that I'm getting across the nation of anybody that's watching this
not
webinar
for me.
because they're
Not
all
for
like,
me. This is my particular interest. You're
this
speaking
is,
my language. Speaking my language.
it was definitely my interest too. And I'll tell you what, when I first got into this business, I I had bought a couple homes, but I didn't really know mortgages that well. Excuse me. And so the very first day of my job as a new home salesperson, I went to meet a loan officer who was working. It was part of one of the preferred lenders of the company that I was working with, and I just said, look, I don't know much about mortgages, but I really want to understand it. I want to understand some different things. And look, this took some time. But this is one thing that made a difference. And what I did is after I got all the information from her, I took that information, I created a little Excel spreadsheet that I could run payments on. And it was, it had VA, FHA, had conventional, it had all these different loan types in there. Now, I know what you're thinking right now. You're thinking, hey, Chance, I'm not a loan officer. And I get that, okay? But anytime and the reason I did this is because anytime that I buy a big ticket item, I mean, I may fall in love with the item that I'm looking at, but what I want to know really, I want to know what's it going to cost? How's it going to affect me monthly? What are some of the things? Do I have the budget and all those kind of things? So, and when I was in new home sales, I found that a lot of people, once they kind of know that and they're comfortable with it, that they were willing to move forward on purchasing. Okay, so I'm not saying that we want to be that we're loan officers, but I really think that we ought to know the numbers well enough to be able to kind of get them in a ballpark. And I always tell the folks that I train, I say, look, we want to under promise, and then we want the loan officer to over deliver. So in other words, I always kind of make sure I got some fluff in there, but I want to make sure, then I want to, when they go see the loan officer, it's a little bit better for the buyer. So here's what I think we need to know when we're talking about loans and things like that. Number one, I think we need to know loan types. Is it an FHA? Is it conventional? Is it a VA? Is it interest only? What are the differences? What are the qualifying? What are the ratios that you have to be in? Okay. And the other thing I think you need, the qualifying ratios. Also, what are the credit score requirements? What does that look like for different loan types? And then what are the parts of the payment? I know everybody kind of knows, okay, PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance, but what are the benefits? What parts of that are tax deductible? What types of benefits do you have when you purchase a home? Now, look, again, we go back into what's your price band. If you're in the high price band, you may not be having these conversations as much. You may be having other conversations, all right? Additional down payment, how is that gonna affect their payment? You know, sometimes somebody would come in and they'd be like, hey, Chance, I'm gonna put $10,000 down. I'm like, whoa, $10,000 down, that's gonna make let me check. That's gonna make a $70 difference in your payment. And they're like, what? That's it? And so they don't think about it. So what we need to do when we use numbers is we need to know them well enough, but we need to use them to shed light on facts to help them make the best decision that's going to be for them and their family. I want to know closing costs. What is that? What does it entail? How much is it going to be? How can I explain, like if the builder is giving a 5,000, 10,000, whatever, you know, seller contribution to be able to go towards closing costs. The other thing is discount points and rates. But the biggest thing that I always wanted to be able to do is I want to be able to get in the ballpark on a payment, you know, because I kind of knew where they wanted to be. And the other thing is I wanted to be able to explain tax benefits to them well enough that if I was a little bit over where they wanted to be on payment, I could get them with that difference right there because maybe they were coming out of a rental or something like that. So we've got to be able to get in the ballpark on a payment. Okay. Now, look, I'm not this guy. Okay. I was not a math major. Okay. And by the way, that's Albert Einstein. I wasn't a math major. I didn't graduate cum laude. In fact, where I'm from, I graduated thank the Lottie because it was slim pickings, right? Where I was from. And I'm definitely not this guy, these folks. I'm more like Penny. Like I'm not a numbers guru or anything like that. So I had to kind of figure this out. But once I figured it out and kind of made it work, then I was able to talk about this and talk really educated about it. So payment calculator, here's what I used. I created an Excel file. Now, one of the things you can do it that way, you can, a lot of times you can find things online that can help you. And all you've got to know is your tax rate, you've got to know insurance rate and some of those different things for your area. And like I said, I went and spoke with our loan officer, and that's how I was able to get that information. The other thing you can do is, this is one that we use at Sell Solve Everything when we do our training. This is the Real Estate Master 3X. So this is actually in the App Store, and you can download this and you can run payments on it. Okay, so that is basically the payment calculator part. Now, I think that there's other things that we can do that to really shed light on numbers for people. And one of my favorite ones was this right here. Are you familiar? Are you familiar with reduced to the ridiculous?
I am not familiar with that.
All right. I love reducing to the ridiculous because a lot of times people aren't aware. They don't think about these things. So here's what it is. Reducing to the ridiculous is when you take a big number and you make it smaller. Okay. Why are we doing that? Well, let me give you an example. There's a rule of thumb that you can use. All right. The rule of thumb that you can use for reducing to the ridiculous is this right here. It's for every $1,000 that the price goes up on a home, or down, doesn't matter. It affects the payment by $7. Okay. So if I raise the price of the home $10,000, it makes a $70 a month difference on the payment. All right. So here's some examples there. $3,000, if you raise it or lower it, it affects the payment by $21. This is on 30-year notes, of course. And then same thing, I just said this one, $10,000, 70 per month. All right, what's great is you can break it down even further. You take the 10,000, that's 70 bucks a month, right? And then you can break it down per day. It's $225 per day, right? So it's when you start, it's 10. Now let me ask you, Heidi, does $225 a day sound better than 10,000?
It does. I like where you're going with this. It
Okay.
does.
Okay,
I
so,
can
all right,
I
cool.
can
So
do
we're on the same page. All right. So let's keep going. All right, so let's reduce to the ridiculous. So sometimes I use it when I'm negotiating. Okay, like if I'm talking to someone and we're $10,000 apart, and I know this is the right home. It's got everything they like. You know, I might do a summary close on them. Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Homebuyer, look, right now we've got the right home, the right home site, and it fits within where you need to be, except we're just a little bit apart. Okay, we're 10,000 apart. I might say, you know, really that 10K is like 70 bucks on a payment. 225 a day. I mean, if you really think about that, would you walk away from the home that you love for like less than what you pay for a Starbucks coffee? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the kind of conversations. And look, I'm not trying to be conniving or anything like that. I'm just trying to shed light on facts because many times people have said to me, wow, I never really thought about it that way. You know, the other way that I like to use it is I like to use it on upgrades. I like to use it to show how easy it is to have the personal items that they want. I may say, hey, it's $20,000 to have wood floors in all of the downstairs. But, you know, and when you think about it, it's like right now with today's rates, it's around $140 a month, you know. Would you want to do that now and like absorb that, what is that, 30, 60, 20? That's like $4, five, something, 4.5 a day. Or, you know, do you want to wait and in a year or two, you know, you pay it all at one time when you have somebody come and put those wood floors in for you and you have to tear out all the carpet or what have you. So I may talk about it that way. The other way I may do it, I may talk about closing costs. So somebody will say, you know, we don't really have the closing costs that we need. And I say, well, if it appraises and everything, could raise the price by 5,000. That way you don't have to come out of pocket with that 5,000, and it really only affects your payment by 35 bucks a month. So there again, 5,000, 5 times 7, that's $35 a month. So I had a lot of those conversations that made people kind of see it differently. It kind of reframed their concern when it came to paying for something. And last but not least, I use it on lot premiums.
Yes.
So, and you know what? I don't like to call them lot premiums. That's kind of a dirty word. Hey, Heidi, let me ask you a question. Do you want to pay a lot premium for a lot?
No, no, no.
No, you don't want to. Let's get rid of that word. Let's do this word. Let's call them premium home sites. Let's don't ever say lot premium. Now, let me ask you a question, Heidi. Are you interested in would you be interested in a premium home site?
Absolutely. Of
Absolutely.
course, I
Everybody
want
wants a
premium
Lexus.
everything. Do I look like I want premium?
Yeah, on top of the line, right? So
Right.
premium. What's great about in our community is that right now you can get a premium home site and they range in payment from $70 to $350 a month. Does that sound like something you might be interested in?
That sounds better
Okay,
than, yeah,
yeah, for sure. And when you
better
said,
lot.
yeah, I'd really be interested in a premium home site for that amount of money. You just basically said you'd pay $10,000 to $50,000 for
Mhm.
a premium home site. And
Yeah.
everybody wants premium, but nobody wants to pay a lot premium. Okay, so that's one way that we can use reducing to the ridiculous. All right. So to me, that's a lot of fun. And you can even look at it even more. You can even go way deeper than this. Okay. Are you ready for this? What would a premium home site cost over a 5-year period? Because, a lot of times people will buy a home and they won't even stay in that home for 30 years, right? I mean, I haven't yet. Have you?
Uh, no, definitely not.
We move all the time, right? Okay, so check this out. So let's say there's a $30,000 premium home site, right? What is that? That's $210 per month times 12 months. Okay, so for that premium home site, you're basically paying $25.20 in a payment per year. All right, now you take that and you put it over 5 years. How much have you paid for that premium home site for the time that you lived in that home? $12,600. Okay, you got a $30,000 premium home site for $12,600 for the time. Now, obviously, it changes based on the length of time, but if you know while you're qualifying with someone or doing your discovery that they're going to be in there a short time, these are some of the conversations that you can have. Now, in 5 years, when you sell it, do you think that premium home site makes it more valuable?
For sure.
Oh, it's going to sell faster. It may even sell more for any other home in the community. So again, those are ways that you can have those conversations. And anytime I reduce the ridiculous, you heard me do it a while ago. I like to tie it to something that they can give up. Sometimes, if it's $5 a day or something, I may say this. I may how much did you pay for the Starbucks you had this morning? $5. Do you know how much buying power that you have in that? And I say, well, what you might consider doing is giving up the Starbucks. And what do you think they say when I say that?
No way.
No way, I'm not giving up my coffee. I say, okay, I'll tell you what. Why don't we do something different? Why don't we do this? So that way you get what you want in the home. I know you love this particular home. These are the reasons why, but you get it and you still get your coffee. So maybe we go buy the Keurig, maybe we spend some money on some pods, a little bit per day less, but we get that really nice premium home site.
Hey, there's your buyer gift. There's your gift right there. You buy them a Keurig.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Heidi, do you make your own coffee at home?
My husband makes my coffee every morning for me.
Hmm.
I did make my own coffee this morning. And I was a little bit bummed by it because he makes my coffee every morning.
You know what I just learned? I think I need to step up my husband game.
I caught a good one. One. He takes his care and time, making coffee too. There's no Keurig coffee at our house.
Right.
We're in Washington. We know coffee here.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Wow. I really need to step up the husband game right now.
I can give you.
All right. So we've talked about reduce to the ridiculous, that which is taking a big number and making it small. And now we're going to magnify to the magnificent. All right. You know what that means, Heidi?
I don't. You're going to tell me though.
Tell you, right. All right. So this is a lot of fun. So here we go. We're going to take a smaller number and we're going to make it bigger. Okay, so how do we do that? I like to do it when I talk about appreciation.
Ooh, yeah.
Now listen, we got to be careful when we talk about appreciation with people, right? Because we don't have any kind of crystal ball or anything that says, hey, this is what the value of your home is going to be in a short time. So here's the way that I talk about appreciation. I talk about, number one, when I talk about appreciation in the past, I use percentages. In other words, I'll say, what's really great about our community is over the last few years, we've seen about a 10% increase year over year in pricing, okay? It's the past. We don't have to have any kind of special crystal ball to know what's happened in the past, right? So we can give you really good solid numbers for the past, okay? Now, here's what I do, but if I'm gonna talk about the future, is I use third-party information. All right. Now, who's a good third-party company that does some really cool stuff in our industry? And that is this company right here, Case Schiller. They can give you some information on what they project appreciation will be over the next few years. Okay. Now that's just a projection. They've got a little bit better crystal ball than we do, but remember, it's just a projection. So when I talk about a future appreciation, I use a third-party information, but I also do something else. I keep it conservative. Okay, and why is that? I don't want to be like some hotshot salesy guy, right? I don't want to be slick Rick. I want to be somebody that has, really good information that that has credibility. Okay, so I'm conservative. So if you look at appreciation, what will the appreciation value be after 5 years? And I say, what's really great is right now, this company, Case Shiller, they're projecting that over the next 5 years, we'll see appreciation in the range of about 8% year over year. Okay, so if you take that number, let's be really conservative, Mr. and Ms. Homebuyer, because I don't want to tell you something that's kind of going to happen, and it may still not happen, but I just want to be kind of conservative. Let's take the 8% and let's cut it in half. Okay, and right now you're looking at a $450,000 home. Well, the appreciation, let's cut that number in half. Let's say the appreciation is not going to do the 8%. Let's say it does the 4%, which is pretty standard, right? So let's take the $450,000 home. And then in a year, it's going to be worth 468. And I'm seeing that too, because we're seeing some price increases right now. And then next year, guess what? Same thing. That 4% turns into 486. And then that 486 turns into 506. And year after year, you're starting to see some really good appreciation. And so by the time, in 5 years, you're looking at almost $550,000 that you've gained, which is how much? Which is a $97,000 gain. So I know that you're concerned about the $30,000 that we just talked about on that premium home site. But if you think about it, in 5 years, you'll have only paid 12 grand for it, but your home, man, that's going to look a whole lot different. It's going to be a lot better place for you. So does that make sense, Heidi?
It does. It
Yeah.
does. You know,
So
to give that crystal ball a little bit, right?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, it's, again, we got to set the right expectations. I don't know the future. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But those are some of the things that could happen, and we try to be conservative when they give that information. The other thing is amortization. Right now, people are saying, I think I'm going to wait. I want to wait for rates to go down. Well, what if they don't go down, right? I mean, we hope they do. Everything's looking like they say they're going down, but this is another conversation I'd have sometime. And that is, how much will it cost your customers over the life of their 30-year loan if they wait and interest rates rise from 6.5 to 7.5 on this is $370,000 loan right here, okay? But I like to show those things, and I can do it real quick in my calculator, or I can do it real quick on the real estate calculator that I showed you a while ago, and that is that on a 6.5% loan, on a $370,000 loan at 6.5%, there's your interest paid, $471,000. But look how it changes just with 1 point. It's almost $90,000, and that's what $90,000 is what you pay to wait sometimes if rates go up. So those are important conversations to have, and that's how sometimes I get people to respond or act quicker. And it's happening right now because people will say, well, interest rates are high. Well, yeah, they are, but what's really great right now is prices, materials, all those kind of things have stabilized. If we get even a 1 point reduction in interest rates, what's going to happen to the price of a home?
Yes. Yeah, the price of a home is going to go up.
Yeah, and I've actually got spreadsheets that'll show you like, hey, if you lived in this home for 5 years and you paid the higher rate, and then rates went down and you refied, the cost difference between those two. And sometimes I have those conversations as well. So to me, it's like numbers are endless, and that's what's fun about this. And so when the market was tough, these are the conversations that I had, and many times I was able to get people kind of off the channel. Now, in this scenario, I say, look, what would you do with $90,000? What if you took the difference in that 1% in payment and you put it into an interest-bearing account? It wouldn't be 90, it'd be a lot more than that in that 30 years. So to me, it was always fun to talk about these things, and like I said, it works. So last but not least, price versus cost. I know we're getting kind of close here, but I always talk new and used, new versus used, and when we do that, I would talk about utilities, because if you have a new home, bottom line is it's a lot more efficient than a used home. And so I would ask people, I'd say, hey, what are you paying right now for your utility bills? And they'd say, May, we're paying around $425 or something. And I'd say, well, most of the floor plans that you're looking at, and this is because I would track the people that lived in my community. I'd go back, I'd talk to them, I'd ask them what their utilities bills were. So I kind of had a list of how much utility bills were in each one of the floor plans that I offered. And I might say, well, in that particular floor plan that you're looking at, it's actually $200 a month is about what it is. Now you got to keep things in mind, square footage that they're looking at, that they're living in now, and the size of their family. But I would say, I would ask this question. Let me ask you, would you rather invest that in your home or would you rather send it to the utility company? 100% of the time, they would say, I'd rather, of course, I want to put it in my home, Chance. Well, you take the 225 difference and you divide it by 7, that gives you 32.14 times 1,000. That $225 gives you $32,000 more buying power. So if you're down the street looking at that used home, that's $30,000 less than mine, but it's going to have a similar utility bill that you have right now. Buy this one, it's a little bit more money. Sure, it's 30 grand more, but it's going to be the exact same for you because we give you more buying power by building you a really, really energy efficient home. Like, what do we do with this information? I mean, it's like there's a lot there to absorb, and I just want you to know you've got to practice. It's practice, practice, practice. Look, here's what I'm saying. When you first start doing this thing, it's real clunky. It takes a little bit to get through it, but as you practice and practice and practice, you get a little bit better at your presentation. You get a little bit better at sharing numbers and doing all these things that it takes to be able to be really great in a tough market. So that's what I want us to do today. And I hope that this has been a big help for some folks that really want to see some additional traffic. But I'll hand it back to you, Heidi. It's great. Hey, I love this.
Chance, this was great. You gave us so many good nuggets to take back and so many things that I think that we all hadn't heard about, hadn't thought about. And so you gave us some fantastic things to take back to the rest of our team. So
Awesome.
Thank you. Very informative. We really appreciate your insight. And we're going to open it up. I guess we're at the top of the hour. We don't have time for questions today.
No, it went so fast.
But you'll receive an email with this recording, and it'll have Chance's contact information too. Feel free to reach out to Chance directly. If you have questions about anything that he said today, I know that he'd love to engage. I think we learned a lot today, though. As you exit the webinar, please, you'll see a short survey pop up. Please fill that out. We review this feedback, and that's how we choose our speakers for future events for you, to make sure that we're giving you all the best information like Chance brought to us today. So thank you. Have a great day, all. Bye-bye.